Please turn to Proverbs 9. And if you have a Pew Bible, I do recommend you turn to this because it is somewhat unstraightforward passage. Proverbs 9, page 500. You might know that Proverbs 1 through 9 is a section within itself in Proverbs. It's a series of lectures and things called interludes, which summon a young man, really, to pursue wisdom. Kind of saying, this is how life operates. We're looking at the final lecture. Life here in chapter 9 is described as a choice between two invitations to a meal. Lady Wisdom sends out her invitation to a meal of her creation, and Lady Folly is calling to the same crowd, urging them to eat what she has on offer. And so, it's kind of a strange question, but which invitation to eat will you accept from Lady Wisdom or Lady Folly? Folly means foolishness. Okay, let's read. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beasts. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her young women to call from the highest places in the town. Whoever is simple, let him turn and hear. To him who lacks sense, she says, come, eat of my bread, drink of the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and live, and walk in the way of insight. Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man incurs injury. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years will be added to your life. If you are wise for yourself. If you scoff, you alone will bear it. The woman Folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat on the highest places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn and hear. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol, or the grave. All right, so the structure is easy to pick out. In verses 1 through 6, Lady Wisdom is calling simpletons to a meal. In verses 13 through 18, Lady Folly is calling the same group to her meal. It's going to be a different experience. And between those two invitations from Wisdom and Folly is a section that kind of acts as a hinge. We'll come back. Okay. Let's compare and contrast the two invitations. First, notice both Wisdom and Folly are inviting people to partake of their meals. They are inviting the same group of people, the simple ones, which is those who are unformed, who are open to influence. We might call them everyman. So everyone is being invited to one of two meals. Yeah? Is that clear? Wisdom has gone all in with preparations. She hasn't just prepared a meal, she's prepared a whole kind of infrastructure that is able to support her meal. She has built a house, it says. And in building that house, she hasn't been utilitarian. The house is adorned with 7 pillars. You might have heard that 7 is the number of completion. And so what we have here is perfection of beauty. And so the writer is drawing attention to this total and exquisite readiness for the feast. Yeah? We good? Not only is the house made ready, wisdom has slaughtered beasts from her own livestock. She has mixed her wine. That is, she hasn't just simply bought wine at market, but was involved herself in shaping its flavor by using different types of grapes and storage that probably she had cultivated and come up with. She has set her table. Probably, you can imagine what that table looks like. It's probably glasses and china and napkins, silverware, perhaps some flower arrangements, some oak and ivy candles. Okay, I had to say that. There is a special deal right now. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Tanya's not here. Okay. So the idea here is that wisdom thinks there's more to satisfaction than just the burst of flavor. There's also the beautiful environment. Yeah, we good with that? So you just imagine, I don't know if you're into hospitality. I think as Christians you should be into hospitality. I want to just say it. Okay? So just imagine there was a table, a set table. Is just, imagine, some people take photos of the table they set. It's just full of anticipation. It's like this, it's a preface to this drama. Yeah. A meal is actually, kind of a drama in itself. And the idea is the guests at wisdom's table are in for this grand experience. So wisdom is advertising taste, nourishment. She says, come and live. So it's nourishment, delightful ambiance. It's just, there's going to be a splendid and satisfying adventure. Yeah, we good there? And so, but now what a contrast though to folly. Folly's preparation, you can hardly talk about her preparation. She has food, sure, but she's taken some shortcuts with that food. She's stolen it from somewhere. And there's, in Folly's invitation, there's no mention of anything having to do with atmosphere. Right? You see that? And the person who comes to Folly's meal really can't relax and fully enjoy her meal because it was obtained illegitimately. And so the person who eats there will have to eat it kind of nervously, looking over the shoulder, wondering if something's going to, whoever she stole this from, is that going to catch up with her and me? On the record player at Folly is the Creedence Clearwater. I feel a bad moon rising. Okay, that's the sound. That's the soundtrack. Huh? But for all that nervousness, Folly is not wrong in saying stolen water is sweet. There is kind of a thrill in naughtiness. There is some rushes of drama. Okay. So there it is. Simple people are being invited to 2 different meals at 2 different places. Are you good so far? Makes sense? One is characterized by preparation, beauty, cultivation, knowledge, taste, all the stuff of joy. And the other meal is associated with kind of nervous thrills, dangerous pleasures that might very well end abruptly, might be painful. Okay. Let's return to the invitation. We've already seen that the invitation is directed to the same group, to the simple person. Yet the invitations themselves are different. Wisdom, how are they different? In verse 3, wisdom sends out her young women to invite. And folly, on the other hand, herself issues the invitation. So that's actually pretty important. It's a kind of a fundamental difference between wisdom and folly. Wisdom's invitation comes through intermediaries. Could we just guess at some intermediaries of wisdom? Parents, grandparents, ancestors, teachers, coaches, pastors, friends, enemies, colleagues, grammarians, your conscience, traditions. Wisdom sends out her invitation through all of these. Yeah? Makes sense? Verse 13, though, as we said, folly doesn't trouble herself with any processes. There's no middleman. Her invitation is just this immediate. There's no intermediaries. It's immediate. It's kind of brazen. There's kind of this sensuality. She's relying on turned up volume. That's the first thing. The wisdom folly is loud. Turned up volume and allure. Sensationalism. Sheer appetite. So, yeah, people will come to eat her thin gruel, stolen gruel, folly knows, if she's so loud that she drowns out the voice of counselors. And with folly's overpowering lure, people won't have presence of mind to stop to think and inquire into folly's quality and long-term effect. And so folly is the master of the immediate appeal to base appetite. The promise of this kind of burst of pleasure or, like indulgence and some kind of self-pity, the pull of a sentimental story, being swept up into a fad, living by feelings and appetite and in the moment things. This is all kind of, it's right there. It's easy. It's thrilling. Yeah. We good? There he is. We come to the end. So then the question is, the end of the contrast, why would anyone choose folly over wisdom? And I think verse 6 has the answer to that. Wisdom says to her guests, what does wisdom say? Leave your simple ways and live, and walk in the way of insight. You see that? So wisdom challenges her guests to change. Yeah, that's important. Wisdom challenges her guests to change. On the other hand, folly doesn't judge, doesn't challenge, simply offers immediate bursts of pleasure. Wisdom says change, folly says just be yourself. Yeah? That's why people don't like wisdom. Wisdom pushes you. Wisdom is calling you into a better, more secure future. Folly wants you to ignore everything but the moment. Everything, it wants you to ignore the facts about your high blood pressure and your sagging body and the sourness that comes from not moving around. The voice of folly is loud and seductive. Okay, good. Verses 7 through 12 fall in the middle of these two invitations. And as I said earlier, they act as kind of a hinge that turns the focus from wisdom to folly. Okay, you ready? This is kind of the crux of the sermon in the next minute. Are you here? The theme of this middle section is what? Responding to correction. Yeah? That's the theme of this middle section. Responding to correction or facing criticism. That's what's been in mind throughout this whole lecture. Wisdom says, leave your simple ways and live and walk in the way of insight. It is the way of wisdom to correct, to rebuke, to criticize. Here it is. Here is my thesis. Ready? You're ready standing up? Or no, you're not standing up. You're sitting up, ready to hear? Here's the thesis. What you do with wisdom's criticism equals whether you are accepting wisdom's invitation or responding to folly's invitation. What you do with criticism equals whether you are accepting wisdom or accepting folly, whether you're eating at wisdom's table or at folly's table. What's the difference? It's what you do with criticism. Yeah? Are we good with there? Did I explain it clearly or no? Give me some body language, okay? Or give me some furrowed brows, like, what are you talking about? And why is it so cold outside? Okay. You can tell, verse 7, who is inclined to visit folly's table. The folks are called scoffer or wicked man. You can tell, though, who visits folly's table because whoever criticizes them is in for a world of hurt. What does it look like? What do the people look like who are going to folly's table? It's if you criticize them, you're in for a world of hurt. If this person is reprimanded, critiqued, challenged, any pushback, or even slightly disagreed with, watch out. He's going to snarl or abruptly end the conversation. Well, I gotta go. Or pout, or ghost you, or passively, aggressively post something about toxic narcissists. Yeah? How can you tell someone is going to folly's table? It's how they react to criticism. Or people do those things or they strike back. This is how it goes down. Perhaps someone criticizes you, and then you wade a little bit into the conversation, and then you say, well, what about what you did? And that's very easy. All that is easy to ghost, to snarl, to abruptly end the conversation. Okay, verse 8a. Fundamentally, a scoffer, one who sits at folly's table, will hate you when he's corrected. Now, he might not choose the word hate to him. He might not own the word hate to himself because it sounds extreme to the modern ear. But what hate means here is that he will be done with you. Again, perhaps not totally done with you, but in some important ways, he will be through dealing with you when you give him correction, pushback. And there will ever be a chasm or some frigid air between the two of you. Okay, verses 8b and 9, reprove a wise man, he will love you. 9. Contrast the person who goes to folly's table with that of the wise man, the man who responds to wisdom's invitation because he likes the taste of what wisdom offers. He likes the environment of wisdom. He likes where this whole thing is going. When you rebuke a wise man, what happens? He will appreciate the fact that he's being challenged. That's super important. A wise man, how does it tell? A wise man likes the fact that he's being challenged. He likes you. He wants to be around you more because, finally, I found someone who's not a yes man. who's not a group thinker, who's not a people pleaser. Those are my type of people. I like friends that will push back on me. That's how you can tell someone who's at wisdom's table. Yeah, is that clear? I'm going to point out a phenomenon. This is how it goes. When you are rebuked, the one, or critiqued, or whatever you want to say, pushed back upon, the one who is critiquing you is often wrong about most everything he's saying. That's usually the case. He's most often wrong about almost everything. He's gotten you totally wrong. Many things that he will say about you are just simply incorrect. They're factually not the case. And there is always this loads of caricaturing going on. Like you're a cartoon to him, okay? Like you're the guy with the black hat, or something like that. But here's the thing. Here, in spite of all that, at the bottom of the critique, there's often this little grain of truth. Yeah? And so, the one at wisdom's table doesn't spend a lot of time defending himself against the details of what you said. Well, no, it's not true about A, B, C, D, E. He hears the thrust of the criticism and assumes, you know what, there's probably, even though you got most of it wrong, there's probably some truth to it. So, this last lecture of the father to his son is saying to the son, here's how you, I almost said do life. I hate that phrase, do life, okay? I want to banish that. Also, season of singleness. A couple of phrases to banish. Okay. Here's how you live. Why don't we just say live? Learn to lean into correction. To welcome criticism. Just like you like the bumps of it. Not because you have self-esteem issues, like you like being punched. Not because you're a masochist, like somehow you like grown to love pain. But here's why you do it. Because scrumptiousness and nourishment and beauty and progress are always on the other side of taking rebuke. Why can't you be okay with being wrong? I see people all the time, and you might see it in me, but like, you're just so afraid that you will be shown to be incorrect. All right. I think there's a lot of just recoiling from rebuke on the loose today. I think if whatever Solomon was writing, like whoever Solomon was writing to, we're like a whole. We're like level 4, okay. Moderns especially are averse to criticism. You heard that? Moderns especially are averse to criticism. Perhaps because our parents have doted too much on us, and we've lived under the slogans all of life, or you're the best, and your teachers always say you're the best, you're the greatest. Perhaps we've lived in this environment of what it means to be good, or whatever, is that it's always 100% nice. Good means nice, which is not true, right? Perhaps I think a lot of our relationships have this kind of unspoken, you better be nice and kind of agree with me and support me or else. And that's always kind of lurking in the relationships. Yeah? I think it's especially a modern thing. Western women, I'm talking about not males, I'm talking about females. Western women, 40-ish years and younger, have been exposed to constant societal flattery in shows, in advertisements, in social media, in school as they grew up. If you are 40-ish and younger, females, you have been exposed to constant societal flattery. I point this out all the time to my kids as we're watching advertisements. Like, who is always the person that knows what's going on in the advertisements? Will be the man or the woman? Who's the jerk? Who's the dolt in these shows? Will be the man or the woman? And yes, so that's just the facts. It's not your fault, but those are the facts. And yes, there's some immediate gratification in being flattered to constantly. But then again, since the 1960s, this is what the what are they called? Not statistics. The what? No, this is what the reports, what are they called? Whatever. Polls, whatever. Something like polls. Since the 1960s, women have been becoming unhappier relative to men, and absolutely. They're like constantly being flattered to, but folly is cruel. Folly is cruel. Folly will flatter, but it is not a result. Yeah? When adult children have their child rearing criticized by their parents, you better watch out. When someone's discernment is questioned or work habits are challenged, no, I'm done with you. But again, as believers, as Orthodox Christians, none of that umbrage, none of that reaction makes any sense. Right? Do you agree with that? I mean, in the garden, humanity was given this, let's talk about work. Humanity's given this fundamental task, which is to work. We are workers. Then what happened? We fell. Right? We fell. So what is that going to mean? It means that if we're fundamentally workers and then we fall, we're going to be, in some ways, bad workers. We're going to mess up work. So if someone points out, you're not a good worker, it's like, yeah, okay, that's right. That's how things go. Why would we be like, you've said something terrible? It should just be the most obvious thing. It's either not normally, we work too much. That's not normally the problem these days. But there's something we do wrong with our work. Yeah, of course. We live in a world of lies, manned or demoned by a prince of lies. So of course we're going to get things wrong. Right? Isn't that our theology? So why would we get all, ticked off when someone says, I think you're getting something wrong here. You're proceeding under bad assumptions. Of course you are. Of course you are. You. I'm not going to point, but you. That's better, right? Who has dealt with his money perfectly? Who can write the textbook on rearing children? I know I can't. Who deals with strife well? And so the idea is, brothers and sisters, just open your arms to criticism. It's in our theology that we should be like, yeah, I'm wrong about a lot. Bring it on. Tell me. Right? Instead of like this kind of unspoken threat to everybody. If you criticize me, if you say that I'm thinking wrong about something, watch out. Okay, in verse 10, the fear of the Lord is brought up. And the reason why is, it could seem like a non sequitur, but it's never a non sequitur in the Bible. Your response to rebuke, which remember arrives through agents of wisdom, has much to do with your relationship to God. And you want to hear that? Because if your boss says to you, you need to start showing up to work on time. And then you're thinking, you're not God. No. This verse is telling you can't make that, you can't say that. That the fear of the Lord, your response to rebuke has much to do with your relationship to God. If you have already been walking before him humbly, if you are in the habit of being corrected and rebuked and instructed by his word, you should already be in a position to admit mistakes. Okay, verse 11. Remember living under the fear of God, which our passage tells us has much to do with responding well to critique, which our passage says, which is what it means to accept the invitation of wisdom, remember that this is for your good. I'm not talking about like, come on, shape up. Bad. No, it's like, come to wisdom's feast. You want to be here. You want to be here. This is for your good. You are better off not running from or hiding or like always on edge. But just kind of like, I'm ready to hear. Just do that. Be ready to be criticized. Open yourself up to it. So, what do you want? You want friendships that are not premised on, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You like everything I say on my post, and I'll do the same thing for you. But rather, you want friendships that have the occasional hard words and rebuke, awkwardness. You want to be friends with Josh. Josh will always give you the hard words. Now, those friendships will take you somewhere. Families that, what do you want? You want to be in a family that doesn't sweep issues under the carpet, but you discuss them. There's life and there's health in those families. You want to believe and buy into faithful are the wounds of a friend. And you want to buy into and believe better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Yeah? Better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Believe in the virtues of criticism. Why? Because you want taste and you want beauty and you want progress. So Christians, in yourself, and as much as you can control your own culture and whatever else, fight against ours becoming a society of scaredy cats and avoiders. Tell your pastor when he's not being clear. Come on, come at me. I always invite pushback, but I will also push back. Don't shield your children from the chiding of their teachers. Well, my children, the way I've raised my kids, this would not have happened. You understand? It's like, no, let your teachers at your children. Don't always say, my kid, he's such a great kid. He would never do. Don't think that way. Invite rebuke. Managers, tell your subordinates if you don't believe he'll ever be able to do the job. Don't keep like, I just don't want to say hard things, so I'm just going to keep mediocrity around. Don't do that. Don't encourage that kind of society. Does that make sense? Be willing to hear hard things and be willing to sometimes say hard things. Ladies, tell your boyfriend exactly why you're breaking up with him. Don't tell him you think of him like a brother, so you're going to break up with him. No, say, because of this, and this. What does Mark Cuban say on Shark Tank? Because of this, I'm no longer in, or something like that. Anyway. So the idea is we don't want a society of pure critics, of complainers, of abrasive people, but we do want a society where criticism is welcomed, it's not dreaded. Yeah, are you good? You getting the spirit here? So verse 12, finally, ultimately the decision to take criticism, to welcome it, is a decision, again, to just prosper yourself. And so brothers and sisters, when your pastor calls you and points out something, what are you supposed to do? What's supposed to happen? Well, the smell of steak is supposed to waft into your nostrils like, yes, I'm being invited into the feast. I'm making this point is that the whole gospel, I'm just going to, summarize this point. The Bible's central story is, right, it comes, at its core, it's Jesus Christ coming into the world. When Jesus Christ comes in the world, did he come into the world centrally with a yes or with a no? He comes in the world with saying, The only reason I'm here is because there's a big no hanging over the world, right? Isn't that true? And the only way that we can respond to Christ is that we accept that no. Yeah, does it make sense? That we have to accept there's a problem with me. And then, only after then, Jesus Christ provided a way for God to say the big yes over our lives. But that's always the progression. Wisdom invites you to the feast through, you got to change. And then to beauty, life, nourishment, that kind of stuff. That's always the case. If you don't want anybody to say no to you, you're going to miss the gospel, and you're never going to get to the bigger yes. All right. I'm just going to conclude with some short applications. So the first one is, don't be tricked into thinking you're humble when you're not. Because there's a lot of sloganing that's easy to do here. It's like, yeah, I'm a chief of sinners. Oh, yeah, life is messy. Yeah, that's a big modern phrase. Yeah, life is messy. Yeah, my life is messy. All those slogans are too easy. I want to say, what happens when someone says, I don't think you're doing a good job as a mother here, or I think you could be a better grandmother here. That's what we're talking about. The slogans are easy. Yeah? Okay. Second thing is, rebuke, correction need not be direct to be real. Okay? Let me explain. Rebuke, correction need not be direct to be real. And so what the application for that is, get around older generations and listen to their stories. So hopefully I'm not giving anything away here. Probably shouldn't. This is not on my notes. But Tanya went by and talked with Trudy this week. And, Trudy just filled her ear with stories of growing up. Trudy as a young person and all that happened to her. When Trudy was 14, I think her father died. And then her brother had to get out of school and start, working. And so then Tanya's listening to all this, and it's this, it's not like a direct rebuke to Tanya, but it's this kind of like, wow, that's a way of living that I'm not used to. And that's a possibility. And it's another way of thinking about family. My kids aren't just like people that I spoil all the time and whatever. No, my kids they're instruments, and they need to contribute to the household, and that should be their mindset from when they're young. You understand? So just being around older generations is there's challenges and rebukes built in. It's not directly at you, but okay. So does that make sense or no? So I want to say this especially to the young adults in this room. You should, once every 2 months, be getting with people that are at least a generation older than you. Preferably 2 generations. Just, hey, tell me about your life. And it can be very simple, but you're just, listening to them. That's a way of saying, I want to go to wisdom's table. I don't want to be stuck around with the same voices as always. I want to be challenged. Yeah, does it make sense? Okay, so the young adults, how are you going to do that? What's your plan? Have a plan for that. Number 3, don't discount criticism because of its source. And yeah, this is important because there's a lot of schleps in the world. And schleps will say things to you, and your temptation is going to be, well, that can't be true. You're a schlep. No, you can't do that. Part of being at wisdom's table is I'm going to take truth from anything. Isn't that one of the Balaam's ass, Balaam's donkey? Is saying, yeah, well, look at that dumb donkey. And yet he's saying true things. Okay, next, don't get overwhelmed by criticism from others. There's a type of personality, and I'm going to just say this. You just need to stop being this sort of personality. How's that for pastoral warmth? Don't allow rebuke to fester and eventually eat away at you. Part of this is just saying, hey, I'm going to develop the sort of skin where I'm okay with someone saying, making criticisms about me. And if you just, pray to ask God, read history to broaden the perspective, jog, do whatever it takes so that it doesn't eat away at you. Each of us, and again, this is in our theology. This is what we believe. We're a work in progress, right? Yes? Is it okay? We're a work in progress. Anybody has arrived here? Tess is about to raise her hand. No, none of us has arrived. And so, has this ever happened to you? You look back at who you were like 3 years ago and you're like, oh, ooh, sort of cringing. Well, you know how this goes, right? So 5 years from now, how are you going to look back at yourself right at this moment? Ooh. Okay, so that is just the case. And so be okay with being criticized, and it's always good to have the biggest picture in mind. Whatever change will occur to us in this life is nothing compared with the great change that we await at the coming of our Lord. When Paul says, we ourselves, in Colossians 3, he says, who we are has not yet appeared. But when Christ comes, then we will finally show up. So what I'm saying is that whatever faults people discover in you and then share with you, they are only capturing a tiny bit of actually what's wrong with you. You're much worse off than anyone understands at the moment, including you. And there is something freeing about accepting that. Yeah, I got a big change in front of me. And then I'll just say to be confident. And that's kind of the final that would seem to strike against all this. There's nothing wrong with all of this saying that as you get older and you've weathered criticism you've taken, and say, yeah, I've learned a lot. I've gotten pretty good at this taking criticism thing. I had a pastor that say to me, people have shot so many holes in me. Now when they shoot, they're going right through a hole. It's so that's a good thing. I've passed through major challenges. I know what to do. I know how to change. I know all the tricks of bad responses to criticism, and I'm ready for what's next by God's grace and with His help. And so be confident, have a little bravado, but never leave behind welcoming critique. Okay, here it is. The gospel, the Trinity knows you and is for you through Jesus Christ. That's what I want you to leave with. The good angels are on your side and are your resources. You belong in the company of the church, which is God's inheritance. The church, both the quick and the dead, are your people through Jesus Christ. God is for you. The Trinity is for you. The Lord Jesus has staked His reputation on protecting your body and your soul, and you are victors through Him. And so thanks be to God for His grace. Where sin surmounts, grace goes up even higher. When our faults are exposed, that is His grace that are exposing them so as to do away with them. Hallelujah for the rock that is Jesus Christ. Let's pray. Lord, give us this kind of wisdom. Bring us safely to Lady Wisdom's table. In the name of Christ, our shepherd. Amen.